Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI Media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm CJ Mitica, Editor-in-Chief, and I'm joined by ASI Media Executive Director Sarah Lewandowski to discuss this year's ASI Power Summit, including our highlights and takeaways. Well, Sarah, welcome back. I'm glad to see that you made it safely back from the ASI Power Summit, which was held this year in Florida. Oh, I'm sorry, it just seemed like that, right? It was really Arizona. Apparently, it can rain in Arizona.
Yes.
Did you know this?
Yes, flood warnings galore.
Yeah. I told my wife, hey, there's going to be like a hurricane like descending on Arizona. And she's like, that's not possible. Trust me, it is. It was at least the remnants of a hurricane. That's right. The rain didn't deter us, thankfully, right? So it was a little wet, but we had a great conference. I know it was your first Power Summit, mm-hmm. So just tell me what were your initial impressions?
Yeah, it was great. The resort, despite the rain, was beautiful, and it was a lot of really the biggest thought leaders in our industry were there, and so it was a privilege to be there. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk with them about current issues in the industry, their challenges, their wins. So it was all around. It was a great 3 days.
Great. Yeah. So it's funny for us because we email these people like all the time, right? Just for quotes and for articles and things like that. And then you're like, oh, like nice to meet you in person that like after like all these years. So and the networking is a huge thing at the Power Summit. It's again where all the industry's leaders convene. So it's great not only for them but for us. But that's just not the entirety of the Power Summit, right? Like we had a whole slate of educational events. A lot of different topics that we covered, the most prominent of which was AI, which is funny because last year when I recorded this post-Power Summit recap session episode, I led with AI then. 1 year later, we're leading with AI again, which is no surprise. So what did you learn, think about, take away from all our talk about AI at the Power Summit?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was really the main thread through all of the sessions.
Sure.
I would say nearly all of them. I would say 90% of the sessions had an AI aspect to it. And I think, honestly, coming out of that, there were more questions than answers. And it really dawned on me that we don't actually know how AI is going to change this industry. Will this industry even have physical products in 10 years? We don't know. Will we even have people who work and make products? We don't know. It could be robotics. It could be automation. We'll talk about it, but Sam Maul, he mentioned the powers of personalization in AI and how personalized these products will be to each end user. So it really remains to be seen how AI is going to change this industry and what it'll look like in 5 to 10 years, but the change is coming for sure. And I think the crowd really, even at my table where I sat for a lot of the sessions, it was pretty evenly split between people who were gung-ho about it, saying you better get on board, and others who were saying, we're a little skeptical about it, and we really like the people aspect of our company. So there was even that split within the ballroom. So it was interesting to witness.
Yeah, there was there were AI focused sessions, but there was also like a brainstorming session that just at the tables, as you mentioned, and we had 5 different questions to talk about. All we talked about was AI because I think that's all anybody wanted to talk about. So I'm kind of like you in a similar boat. Like last year, I walked away just being convinced that AI is going to change everything. And a year later, like I still believe that, but I don't know how it's going to play out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like we know there's going to be a lot of changes in job responsibilities. This is something we talked a lot about. Like people's jobs are going to change, what they do, and so some of those sort of more mundane tasks, the procedural type stuff, like that's going to go away. That's going to have a big effect on the job market. But I'm of the opinion. I don't know if you feel this way, Sarah. Then there's going to be a new sort of class of workers where it's working with AI, knowing how to best harness the software to get the best results. What do you think?
Sure. I think working in tandem with the automation, the AI, the robotics that are going to start to move into these workplaces, that's going to be really key, working in tandem with them. Yeah.
And I got the sense, I don't know what you think, that so as an industry as a whole, we're just getting into AI. There's maybe a select few companies that have like dove completely into it, that have integrated throughout their whole tech stack, that have implemented at every level of their business. I get the sense that a lot of companies, even larger companies, they're just like sort of dabbling, they're experimenting, they're trying to figure out how to best use it. Maybe they are using it, but it's not completely woven into all their like processes and all their workflows.
Yeah, so we had ASI Research had the survey of attendees before the
you and
Power
Nate
Summit.
Kuzma presented that.
Yeah, that was interesting. We found that less than half use it pretty frequently, but 40% still use it. They said they still use it sparingly. So there are some strides to be made as far as AI and how it's used in the workplaces. I do believe that it's still used at a very personal level. So person to person, what are you comfortable with based on your job responsibilities? But we're moving towards, it's going to be, like you mentioned, it's going to be implemented at the highest levels of a company. And that's coming very soon.
Yeah. The one slide in Sam Maul's presentation showed the same New York City street 10 years apart, right? This is at the turn of the century, 1900s. And the before snapshot showed the street lined with horse and buggies, right? Horse and carriage. And 10 years later, one horse, all cars. And Sam's point was adoption is super rapid, and it's going to be the same thing in AI. We're just talking about this now, but it seems like in a couple of years' time, it's going to be everywhere.
Yes, and he said it's going to change everything. And when I asked him after his session exactly what he meant by that, he said, we're just not ready for how much it's going to change. Like the workplace isn't ready, schools aren't ready, industries aren't ready. It's going to change literally everything, and even our behaviors, how we go to market, how we interact with each other. And he said in ways that we can't even fathom at this point. Yeah.
So there's a couple of bits of, I think, actionable advice from the Power Summit regarding AI that I think both distributors and suppliers are. It behooves them to follow. One is just to start using it. This is something that our CTO, Ryan Hutchinson, mentioned during his session. It seems very intimidating at first, but it's actually very user-friendly. And the more you use it, you'll be surprised how comfortable and easy it is. And I think you need to be, if not an early adopter, just be an adopter to start using it. It's like, think about the internet in the 90s, the people that were like, oh, I'm not gonna use the internet. It's just a fad. Now the internet is woven into everything that we do. It's gonna be the same thing with AI, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and also Sam, again, he had a great session. He said, make sure you take care of your people. Sure. Make sure they know where we're headed, and also take advantage of the training that's available for free a lot of the times. There are so many resources now for learning how to use AI. So if you're intimidated by it, if it's something that's seemed overwhelming, for sure there are ways to overcome that through training. Yeah. So on the subject of AI, our keynote speaker this year was Sophia, the world famous humanoid AI robot. Now, Sarah, I know you had the privilege of being at the session, but then interviewing her afterwards. It was kind of a surreal experience. What was your impressions and your thoughts? Yeah, it was very, I know that we're getting to the point now where we're going to be working in tandem with robots, and we have to be ready for that. But it was for sure, it was a new experience. You have to, we're so used to instant reaction from the person we're speaking with, and conversation and quick responses. And you had to kind of give her like a pause or like a beat to respond to what you were saying. But when she did respond, it was actually, very thoughtful. She had a sense of humor. She had human elements to her that were very interesting. But yeah, it was definitely a new experience that we're all going to have to start to get used to. To underscore the idea of talking about the robot, you see it now in the commercials. AI is becoming more verbal, right? If you see commercials for Google and Microsoft, they want you speaking with the AI. It's not just like a chat browser window that you're using. So I actually think that Sophia interview, right, that interaction was kind of like priming us for this is really the next generation of AI interaction. Yeah, and I mean, how often do we, when we just use ChatGPT, how often do we say please and thank you?
All the time.
Right, we're already starting that. Yeah, yeah. The etiquette on how you speak to a bot is already beginning, and we're all starting to do that. So this is the next iteration of that, is actually interacting with them on a more personal level. Yeah, let's not get into the politics of our mistreatment of robots and how it's going to come to bite us later in life, but we can put that to the side. So AI was huge, but obviously not the only thing that was discussed at the Power Summit. So the economy was a big topic, the economy and tariffs, and certainly what's been going on
right now, Mary Kelly, who's an economist, she served in the Navy. She actually was at the Power Summit last year, and we invited her back this year for return engagement. She talked a lot about what she's been seeing in terms of the marketplace and economic indicators and how tariffs are impacting companies. What did you walk away from just from the Power Summit in terms of how you view the economy and sort of the future of the market as it pertains to promo?
That's a great question. What I found, which was pleasantly, I wouldn't say surprising, but I was happy to hear that when Mary came on stage and really, I mean, she covered a lot of different aspects of the economy,
Yeah.
all the main points of the economy, and how different phenomena impact consumer confidence and therefore spending. It really tracked with not only what Nate and I then presented as far as the data from our attendees, but also tracked with what we're hearing in the industry largely with our members. So she basically said, the economy is doing okay. I mean, and inflation is persistent. She said she called it a kind of like a runny nose that won't stop running.
Yeah,
right?
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I thought that was great. And the economy is doing okay. And that tracked with the data that we found from our attendees. They're optimistic for Q4 because, as she said, people like to give and receive presents. So, the Q4 bump is real and it's there to take advantage of. But at the same time, I think our members and especially the attendees are very conscious of the realities on the ground. They are cautiously optimistic for Q4 into Q1. And so most of them were looking at some increase in their sales. We did see Q3 sales increase 5%.
Yeah.
So that was great. But they're also realistic about, a lot of these factors that we're dealing with, like the job market and geopolitical conflict and inflation, there's still going to be realities early next year. The tariff situation was a tough one in the first half of this year, but that seems to have kind of leveled out a bit. We're still monitoring that, but now that there's more certainty around it, they can bank on that and plan more. So that's been very helpful. So I think there's just still a cautious optimism, and all of the data that we presented at the Power Summit seemed to all kind of come together and track together, which was great.
Yeah. So Mary described the economy in terms of being complex, right? There's no easy answers right now. The economic indicators aren't great, as you said, but there's this vein of cautious optimism. Tariffs, politics aside, people in this industry aren't overly happy with the tariffs, just sort of broadly speaking. But I think there's just certainty that the tariffs are going to be around in some form. Now, there's a Supreme Court ruling that's going to be happening at the beginning of November, and we'll see how that plays out. But just right now, generally speaking, people know there's going to be tariffs. The levels of it might change, but now they can start planning around it. And I forget who was on stage. I want to attribute it to Jeremy Lott, but it might have been Neil Rangel or someone else, just to say, just tell us what the rules of the game are. As long as we know that the rules that everybody's playing by, we can plan accordingly. So I think that informs what you're talking about in terms of that cautious optimism.
Right, and that seemed to be I cover the Canadian market as well. It's very similar up in Canada. They're dealing with very similar factors, and they told me just this week that spending that was put off, perhaps because of uncertainty in the first half, they're now starting to spend again in the second half of the year, and especially for Q4.
Yeah. So, Sarah, you mentioned the Q3 industry data. Again, the promo industry was up 5% for North American sales in Q3, a very positive sign, a sign that a lot of those orders that were on hold in the first half of the year were finally coming through. Some more certainty about tariffs. Be sure to check out that article on asicentral.com/news. So there's a full report with a lot of metrics that will be helpful to our readers and our viewers and listeners. So beyond those big topics, what other standout highlights did you have from the Power Summit?
So I really enjoyed the Q&A with Tim and Norman Cohn.
Yeah.
So Tim Andrews, our retiring president and CEO, spoke with our chairman, Norman Cohn, who is celebrating 75 years in the industry, and Tim is almost hitting 25 years upon retirement. So it was really nice to have the two of them, two veterans, sitting there discussing the industry. And Norman just he just told his story. It was actually very beautiful about starting his small business in Iowa and trying to fulfill an order for thousands of turkeys as a high school student. It was really heartwarming and a really nice way to kind of put a ribbon on the event. And we all just sat there and kind of like sat back and laughed, and it was really, really nice.
So the funny part is, so I've heard that story multiple times now. I've been at ASI for 17 years. I was sitting next to Kenny Ved, who formerly a Gold Star, just joined FASA. And after Norman was done his not speech, right, like telling his story, Kenny was just like wide-eyed. He's like, I've never heard that story before. Like that's amazing. And it's just funny to see it through the eyes of someone who's never experienced it before, and just get that sense of novelty and admiration. And so that was fun for me, just being next to somebody like experiencing that for the first time.
Yeah, and after like a full day and a half of talking about technology and automation and AI, it reminded me that at core this industry still is very personal. It's still a people industry. It's a relationships industry. It's saying yes and then figuring it out. So, I think that it really brought that home, that this industry is still very warm and close and close knit. And it was just a very nice, wholesome way to sum up the event.
Yeah, for sure. So the session that preceded it was one that I found fascinating. So that was Tim's Q&A with Jim Hilt, who's the new CEO of Halo Branded Solutions. I thought it was very interesting because Jim's an outsider. He's a career executive who's been at places like Shutterfly, Barnes & Noble, Express. So not someone who knows the industry particularly well, but it was just interesting to hear his vision for Halo and like his thoughts on the industry. And he was pretty, in my mind at least, transparent. They want to grow Halo into a multi-billion-dollar company. Jim said that Halo's not a tech company, which is so funny to think about that for a distributor that does 950 whatever million in sales, but he's going to make it into a tech company. That's why Halo brought him in. It was just very interesting to hear him paint that vision of one of the largest companies in our industry.
Yeah, and it's I appreciate I loved hearing the optimism and the hustle, and it's interesting when an outsider is coming in and looking at the industry with fresh eyes and seeing what's possible and really, really hammering down on that and running home with that, I think is very inspiring, especially for the second day. After all of the conversations from the first day, it was really nice to see somebody who's really, in the trenches doing that. It was very interesting.
Yeah. So great conference. Despite my jokes about the weather, there was some beautiful views of the mountains, and the weather was very nice when it didn't rain for some parts of it. What other like fun things did you experience at the Power Summit?
I really appreciated the burro, the welcome reception.
So wait, what's a burro for our viewers who don't know?
It's a little mini donkey, and he was so cute, and he was carrying around drinks on this little like pack. And I felt a little bad because I was like, the poor thing. But then his handler said, no, he's a rescue. Like, he's more than happy to do this for you. But he kept kind of turning, and I was like, oh, like towards the business end. And I just kept like my safe distance from him because I wanted to respect his space. But his name was Henry. Shout out Henry. That was really cool. That was fun. Yeah,
that was fun. And the charcuterie board exercise was it was funny. So Maple Ridge provided the accoutrements for the members, the attendees to build their charcuterie boards, and it was just after the sessions were over. And initially, it's like people just wanted to talk, they wanted to have a drink, and it took some herding of cats to get them to participate. But once they did, the creativity was off the charts, and it was really cool to see. Everybody just jump right in and arrange it in different ways and grab like other accessories and other items and add to it. So that was a fun little interlude for me.
And we stood there and watched them building these boards, and we just stood there and ate the food.
Oh yeah,
Maple Ridge had.
Totally. It was
so good.
We were working hard too, so we deserved to just eat and judge.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
All right, so Sarah, just again to wrap up, first Power Summit. Like, what are your like thoughts, takeaways, just having gone through it the first time?
Yeah, I think it was really. It was thought-provoking, it was inspiring, it was really great, like you said, to see people in person and be able to just kind of share a drink with people we've spoken to at a distance for a long time. And then, more questions than answers, I would say, at the end of the day. Like, we really have to start thinking about the next phase of this industry, what it's going to look like, and how we're going to lead that instead of following. And we have to keep pace with our end buyers and users, what they're looking for in promotional products, how it's going to change. And that really was all driven home at this event.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This year. Hopefully, you'll want to come back. You
For
won't
sure.
have to be forced to.
Thanks.
And so, if you're interested for next year's Power Summit, the registration I'm not sure is available yet, but should be soon. It's at asipowersummit.com. That's the URL. So just be sure to keep an eye on it. And also check out our continuing coverage. We have all our Power Summit coverage on asicentral.com/news. You can search Power Summit 2025. You'll be able to find it. Thank you again, Sarah. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. Have a great rest of your week.